Happy Monday and welcome to Jasiri. It's the first day of December, the final chapter of 2025. And somehow we've arrived at the last stretch with just 30 days and just around 700 plus hours left before we step into a brand new year. Now, December has a way of slowing us down and speeding us up at the same time. It reminds us of everything we've survived, everything we've learned, and everything we still hope to become. It invites reflection, gratitude, and a silent determination to finish well. But it also means we give the year one final push for the things we want to tidy up, the things we still hope to achieve. And for us at Jasiri, it means we're still very much about the conversations we need to have, the issues that need to be addressed, and the people we need to listen to. And we have someone like that today. So expect a lot more of the characteristic Jasiri vibe as we enter the final stretch of the year. Ladies, how was the last weekend of November? Very quickly.
Who starts? Anyone that lives in the Aja knows that it's been very hellish. Traffic in Lagos just takes the excitement out of everything that we all do.
But didn't they say they were postponing this?
They're doing it from Aja forward. Now they're meeting up from about after Chevron.
They said they were postponing it.
They're doing it.
They said they were stopping it.
They're doing it.
That's not good. So that means we can't trust what government tells us.
Oh, so your trust deficit?
No, I at least want to say, if you said something
they're doing it from the Aja. I live there in that axis, so I know. They're doing from the Aja axis forward, and they're doing from maybe after Chevron.
So are they going to be doing this throughout the festivities,
the
December celebrations?
I would have thought that with the way they recorded a lot of, money coming into Nigeria during December last year, that they would have
done this already before now.
But, I don't know how this is going to meet up with Christmas, because anybody that comes into the city and experiences what we're experiencing on a daily basis, trust me, you probably will never come for December.
I think the idea is, making Dirty December a government thing.
But even if you're making it, you want to present your best foot forward. This is not the best foot forward. For that access is going to be heavy. We've seen the prices of Airbnbs go up, hotels. As in, we've talked to people. We have friends who want to come, and they're finding out that places are already fully booked up to like the second week of January. Yes. And so we're fine. We want government to sort of not necessarily formalize it, because we know that means tax and everything, but we want government to help us present a better Nigeria. But you now say you are postponing this same thing that apparently you have started. So what changed? And why are you giving us one statement last week but doing something else?
It goes back to the same question.
Do you know that now Chevron, we have traffic from Aja, the roundabout. You have now you don't have a Chevron, you have from Mega Chicken. It starts from about Mega
Chicken. Just after the second toll gate.
Like second toll, heavy, dense traffic. Then the one after Chevron. Before you now meet the one that is after Chevron, that they're doing the road this way.
I'm not coming to
it actually takes us to the question that we've always been asking on this table. Do they even think before they do something? Do they think about the impact that this is actually having on the people? Especially those who still have to work, essential workers and the likes.
We say it on this table every day, that they have a great idea, but they don't think it through. Then as they start, they'll start thinking and rethinking their decisions.
This particular thing, because I know the breakfast team has been taking it up, because we have a number of members from the breakfast team that come through that side. I think you guys have had to adjust your takeoff time to be able to make up in the morning. So I know this thing is still going to come back to bite them in the proverbial whatever, because you can't tell citizens one thing. We react and we tell you that this is at this point in time. Everybody wants that road fixed. Yeah. My car has had a tire issue. I think I was with Corey there around 7:30 coming from the road. They're expanding the road. The potholes are horrible. The road has deteriorated. We agreed to that. Maybe we want it fixed. Yeah. But we told you we want it fixed. But you looked at the time you wanted to fix it. And you chose this time.
The coastal road. Sometimes it's locked.
We're waiting for
because we need an alternative.
And then you have to pay those boys. Maybe what they're saying is that those boys, we passed there yesterday for my sister-in-law's birthday. They were negotiating with cars to pass.
Maybe
one from Eco Atlantic. That's where it starts in VI. Maybe you have to pay those boys to pass the road.
Maybe government will tell you that, okay, maybe what they said they will not do is they take it from the Lekki axis
into entering the side of
the they're still taking it from Chevron up, down.
The same difference.
So it is so chaotic. See how I'm sounding. I am exhausted. Exhausted from just sitting.
Earlier.
Before I got home yesterday, I just wanted to drop something off for a friend at Chevron. Tolu, I spent like 50 minutes just turning into Chevron because that center became a chaos.
And the other thing is, unfortunately, if government is saying they're going to go ahead and do this, we ourselves as Nigerians need to help ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wants to listen to the traffic control people. Nobody really wants to respect the lights. But then I found out that a lot of the traffic lights on that road, I've been there a lot of times in the past 2 weeks, are not working. They're not working. You remove roundabouts. A lot of the traffic lights are not working. They're not and they promised us last month. So you said when you were going to do it, you would add additional last month. Did you say any additional last month?
Last month.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Let's go. We have one story to take. Our guest is here.
Let's
it's a really
keep
important
going.
conversation.
Well, before we get into our main conversations, let's give you an update on a story discussed here on Jasiri. You know, not too long ago, an ex-user known as Chubby Diva accused singer Paul Okoye, aka Rude Boy, of rape in a tweet that she made on X in relation to his divorce. And now, according to reports, she was arrested in Lagos on November 6th, 2025 and charged and taken to court on November 10th, 2025. Now, reports say that she was released from custody on medical grounds shortly after and has since failed to appear at subsequent court dates. Now, the matter was reportedly adjourned and refixed for today, December 1st, 2025, and the court ordered that either she or her lawyer must be present. Now, these proceedings are tied to the petition filed by Rude Boy, who took legal steps after her allegations circulated widely online.
Very exciting. Yes. Before the latest development, here is a recap of what led up to this case. The issue began in September when Chubby Diva was replying someone else's post about Rude Boy. In her post, she alleged that the singer cheated on his wife with a domestic worker, that he sexually coerced the said domestic staff, implying that the relationship was not consensual, and she claimed that the alleged incident contributed to the serious marital tension during that period. Her post soon went viral, attracting public scrutiny. Following this, Paul Okoye publicly responded, denying the accusations and announcing that he will take legal action. On X, he wrote, "I hardly reply, but you see this one, Chubby Diva. If you like, go private, leave X. I will find you. I will use every necessary means, power and resources and money. You will face the law. I will use you to set an example. Your only way out is to leave the surface of this earth and relocate to space." Soon after his response went viral, she deleted her social media account. It was reported that she left her home that she shared with her husband and fled.
I knew Lolo was going to like this story because Lolo has said repeatedly that she's an advocate for some kind of control on social media. And the thing with this story is he was celebrating his wife. And so his second wife, his new wife, it is what it is. And there were people who were talking about the age gap between them. And then this lady brought up, and then somebody talked about the fact that didn't he cheat on his ex-wife? And when you look at, if you go down that old thread, you would see what looked like, I think, divorce documentation. And there was allegations from the wife that there had been some form of cheating and that possibly he had something to do with the domestic staff and that he had chased the ex-wife and the sister out of the house. And so that is where Chubby Diva steps in and says, oh my God, he raped / coerced a domestic staff. One, there are a lot of, there's porosity. Those documents never should have leaked online. There are private legal documents in a situation between husband and wife. Again, second, the wife made allegations. Those allegations were never spoken to about a judge. A judge never said he was guilty of the cheating. There's never, as far as we know, evidence of that. And so my thing is, oftentimes we will look at something, we will make assumptions. That's the document because it is in public light. And it says, this is from the wife, that I know as a fact that the respondent on the 11th of June 2020 threw the petitioner's sister and I out of the house after we discovered that he had started an illicit affair with one of the house helps by name Florence. And that was this is the document. And so I believe I can't speak.
Does she live in the house?
That is the thing. So what she's supposedly talking about is a misuse of power dynamic situation. You went ahead to go.
It's just, Nigerians like to jump into the fray of things, that they have no idea. What do you know about what actually transpired between the couple? You would make allegations. You will say things like, I was there. If they ask you for evidence, you can produce it.
Do you know that people were asking, advising, and actually begging this girl to remove her tweets and to apologize to him? She didn't. She let it go. But then you fled. Why are you fleeing?
No, because
the truth. Why are you fleeing?
I just want more of this to happen. When people are caught up on what they just say ridiculously, or they just drop,
and then they'll come and tell you it's bad. They'll tell you it's bad.
Let me tell
you somebody's name.
Let me tell you, I think people are beginning to take this, social media being a court of its own, or them being social media in-laws too seriously. Because I remember this particular case, and I remember she being begged, she fled to Ghana, and a whole lot of things happened. And I was on social media yesterday, and I saw two separate cases as well. There's this guy that goes on social media, on Twitter, and he just concocts stories about people. Yeah, there was one other person who posted him and his fiance and everything, and the guy just went and he was like, I don't think this is the right move for you to make because she was an OS and all that. Just like that, one Igwe guy like that, and he does that. There were a few examples.
That's reputational damage.
Exactly.
Are you my client?
Yes.
Did you ever pay me for sex? What is that?
Exactly. They're finding that guy, and he's done it to like 4 or 3 people that were
most likely women.
Women mostly, right? And then there was another one that happened, and it was Mr. Easy. So somebody posted a before and after picture, before marriage and after marriage. I think it was meant to be something funny.
No, and so the producers are telling us that there's a new one where Mr. Easy posted shaving his head, and then someone alleged that he had HIV, and that person is being served.
Yes.
I don't know how you sit down in the confines and the 4 corners of your home. I think what it is that because when social media started, people were quite anonymous. We all started with being serious keyboard warriors, and there was a level of anonymity. And to now, there's still a bit of a level of anonymity. But now what you find is that people who are in the public light are very, very particular about their reputations. You cannot just say anything. You cannot just say anything. You can't just concoct something. And then people will laugh and they'll tell celebrities, and then they'll accuse celebrities of using their power or their celebrity status to go after these people. Stop saying what you don't know.
Look at some of the Facebook posts that came out and said Lolo had twins in America.
I remember.
Imagine somebody was going to marry me and say that
baby.
And it was clearly written down. They just, if many of them are in court, even if it is just the rigor.
But I don't want to how many can we count? I keep remembering that one that did it to E-Money, and he said, I just wanted you to notice me. Is social media driving people's brains to melt?
Tolu, to even tell you, the person who took it upon himself, it was a lawyer, and it wasn't even Mr. Easy's lawyer. He took it upon himself to make sure that things like this don't happen.
We just have to stop it. Imagine somebody saying somebody has HIV.
Where do you get it?
Where did you get your
info? Gave him? Do you know where it gets it from?
Something called doctor-client confidentiality. Even if you do have some things, your doctor cannot even say it to another person.
So I think that a lot of times people think that celebrities don't have emotions, and that because you put yourself or you're in the public light, you should take anything that happens. You should be able to suck it up. That maybe that money or that privilege or that visibility sort of it means that they can do anyhow with you. No, it is not. No. You guys are talking about reputations. You're talking about accusations. You're making allegations. They're going to use, if they can have the money to fund the case, they're going to fund the case against you.
Somebody posted a picture.
What are you going to do?
Celebrities who, after they're divorced, married younger men.
I saw you,
and they put me and whatever they alleged as my husband. And I would look at people. I said, "You don't ask questions. Did you call? Did you ask? Did you see me post a marriage?"
They forget that being a celebrity doesn't automatically absolve you from being a human being. They just say whatever.
So anybody you take picture with in Ashwebi. Yesterday we watched Ashwebi to a friend's wedding, so I took pictures with a lot of my friends' husbands. And all of them are now my husbands now.
The funny thing is people take it all in.
Because
they believe them so much.
Especially as Nigerians, we have a love-hate relationship with our celebrities.
Yeah, we just
have
want
a
their
love-hate relationship with rich people in this country.
Yes.
Many of us want what they have, that access to power, that ability to, snap fingers, and but people look up to them, but people also dislike the fact that many of them are in that position. There are many people that think certain people don't deserve the positions they're in. So we have a very, very weird relationship, but we can beg them urgent 2K.
Yes, they know how to beg them
urgent 2K.
They don't even know
tell
what
them that they don't know how to. Are they not human? They don't know how to give to people.
Look at I don't endorse some. Imagine when they took an Nkechi Blessing's picture in the gym.
Yes,
and she was sitting unguarded. That was the most
really
wicked
horrible
thing I have seen. So even if you think some woman is overweight, it is her body. Her choice.
Why was she
She's in the gym. Is she going to waste strength in the gym when she's working out? It was just done in very low taste.
It was in bad taste, and they did it to embarrass her.
Yeah, to embarrass her.
And you have people opening different pages on social media to insult celebrities.
Just troll us and.
But I like the fact that pages are also making it plain that if we get a court order, we will share your information. Your information is private to a point. But if your information is part of a case, it's part of a situation, a legal situation, and there's a court order,
then we give it to them.
They will give it to them. No, let's go on a break.
Anyway, when we return, we're shifting into a conversation that matters deeply. A conversation about the role of men, the role that men must play in ending gender-based violence. Because this work isn't just for women, honestly. And change cannot happen if half the population is standing on the sidelines. What does meaningful partnership look like? What does accountability look like? And how do we move from talk to action? We'll get into all this right after the break with our guest, Rotimi Olawale, the Executive Director, Youth Hub Africa. Just stay with us. Interesting conversation coming.
Today, we're taking on a conversation that is urgent, necessary, and long overdue. The role of men in ending gender-based violence. We say this all the time. Gender-based violence is not a women's issue. It affects women and girls disproportionately, but it's driven by systems, beliefs, and behaviors that involve all of us. And the data keeps telling the same story. Unless men and boys are intentionally part of the solution, the cycle continues. Across Africa and around the world, countless advocacy groups are now pushing one truth. Men must step forward, not just as supporters, but as partners, as allies, as co-creators of safety, equality, and accountability. Ending GBV is not about fixing women. It's about transforming the norms and power structures that enable violence in the first place. And that transformation cannot happen without men taking responsibility, without men speaking up when silence would be easier, and without men challenging one another, educating one another, and doing the work of unlearning harmful ideas about masculinity, control, and entitlement. It cannot happen without men who are ready to say, this is my fight too. And now we're joined by someone who says, this is my fight. Someone who has been deeply involved in mobilizing young people, communities, and policy conversations. Rotimi Olawale is the Executive Director of Youth Hub Africa, based in Abuja, but somehow in Lagos. Yeah, on the right side. Rotimi, welcome to Jasiri. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so no call.
All right, Rotimi, as we begin, now let's reflect on, some simple truth, because in many societies, violence against women and girls, intimate partner violence, or even abuse, exploitation is not just a woman's problem. It's a societal problem, and, those most often associated with power structures, men have a critical role to play in all of this. But from your perspectives, why is it important that men take ownership, and become part of the solution?
Thank you very much. And I think, as you've rightly said, if we look at the data around sexual and gender-based violence, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, the burden lies largely on women. But who are the perpetrators? Largely men. There are men who are also victims, absolutely yes, but it represents a tiny percentage in the burden that we see in Nigeria and across the African continent. But why should men be involved in this? I think there are two fundamental issues that we first need to examine. For us to stem the tide of sexual and gender-based violence, we have to invest more in prevention, and that's one area that men come in. But the second thing we also need to examine is how do we raise our boys? And it's a conversation that we have to specifically look at. And so if we build households in Nigeria where boys have no specific responsibilities, they are allowed to go out and play football, come home, eat hot meals, leave their plates on the sink, have no respect for the girls have to do all the household chores. It starts from those issues. And it starts also from when society says, let boys be boys, they are boys, they can do whatever they want. But when young girls are being groomed from as little as age 8 for marriage, you see young girls at age 7, their parents will tell them, is this how you sit in your husband's house? Is this how you burn food for your husband? But the boys practically do nothing. So we have to go to the roots. We have to raise our boys differently. We need them to understand that having skills like cooking is just critical life skills that benefits everyone. But if they also take part in the household, then they understand that responsibilities that they look down on, which are household chores that they feel is not my duty, actually takes time. But also participating in that allows you to understand and have value for women. And this is what is important.
Thank you. Very well said.
She's very happy.
I know that there are organizations that definitely that are working, to correct some norms about men. We have organizations like Men Engage Africa Alliance and the UNHCR's IMA program. They engage boys, at the very roots, the beginning, where they are challenging harmful norms, maybe promoting gender equality, which is very, very important because you just spoke about that. What root causes, do GBV that that we have to address early enough before it becomes something that, haunts us? What are some of those root causes of GBV that we can take from, quite early before the boys catch on and become men?
Yeah, I mean, 3 things that I can talk about. One is the culture that starts from maybe high school and the culture of see no evil, say no evil. If you go to a public school in Nigeria, you can't rat on your colleagues, right? If you do that, you're going to be ostracized and you're going to be dealt with. So if you see anything that's happening wrong, you keep quiet. The teacher comes into class, who did this? Everybody, zip, you can't talk about it. And that's the culture that young men take out. And when they become adults, they see their friends doing bad things, abusing their girlfriends or their partners, they're not going to say anything. And then the second culture that you then build on top of that if you go into any higher institution across Nigeria, and that's a bro code, where if a guy has a girlfriend in his room and his main girlfriend arrives,
they cover up.
The entire hostel, without being given any warning, participate in this process of cover-up. You have to do it. If you don't do it, everybody looks at you as a strange one. Nobody tells you this is what you have to do. But once you get on campus, somehow it's an expectation. You build into that culture. These 2 cultures help to protect men who abuse women in our societies. And we need to raise it. We need to raise that flag. And we need to stop it. Boy code, bro code should not get to the point that when we see violence and abuse, we have to speak out. And we have to encourage more men to speak out. The second side of it is about patriarchy. A lot of men are happy with patriarchy, yes, because it benefits us. It allows us to do very little and get away with it. But the flip side is also the disadvantages around patriarchy that men carry, the burden that men carry on patriarchy. On the average, I don't have accurate data on this, but on the average, men die earlier than women.
Yes.
And why is this so? Because we carry a lot of burden that patriarchy puts on our shoulders. It tells us that what do we need to do? Put money on the table. And when you rob men of the opportunity of putting money on the table, they have nothing else to do anymore because their sense of self-worth is tied around being a provider. But there are many other things that men can do. And so these days you see men in their 60s, their kids are abroad, they want to send for their parents, they don't send for the father because the father is useless. He can't take care of a baby, he can't cook for himself, he can't even serve for himself. So they're like, if I send for my father, he becomes an additional burden because I have to take care of him while taking care of my baby. I will send for my mother. My mother will come, will cook for me, will back the baby for me.
Will ease my life.
Ease my life. But the father is going to be an additional burden. So the fathers are left alone here. And when they are left alone, their wives are gone. They can't cook for themselves here. They can't take care of themselves. They can't take care of their health. So we have to look at it from both sides. There are some advantage, but there are some disadvantage. And as a result of that, we need to start unbundling patriarchy in our society.
And you know what he's talking about? We had a conversation. So in Kenya, I can't remember the name of it, they were having great divorces. And so in these great divorce situations, they're finding that women who have been in marriages for 20, 30 years are actually divorcing their husbands when the kids have grown up and everything. They said they're tired of taking care of. And it started from a video online of an older man, I think he's probably that was making food
or something.
And everybody was like, where's your wife? And people are like, what do you mean, where's his wife? His wife, whether his wife left him or how she left him, we don't know. But the lady who wrote the article, we spoke to her and she shared so many stories where children have gone to collect their mothers and told them to come and rest. And they've left the fathers. And it's, you know, African men, there's a pride that you guys have that until you let some of that pride go and really look at the situation in front of you, we're going to continue to have that. But let's look at context now, because we are in Nigeria. We know religion, culture, tradition, those things culturally, contextually are parts of the issues we have with ending gender-based violence. What are some of the unique challenges and then even the opportunities that exist for men stepping up as allies in ending gender-based violence? And I quickly want to say, hello, the data says that the more you help your wife at home, the easier it is for things to happen in the other room.
Yes.
I just wanted to, that's data, that's not you. I just want to say data. I just need to point that out.
Yeah, in terms of religion, what we are seeing, especially for the Christian religion, is that most pastors don't want to encourage or preach separation. And that's a big and huge challenge. A couple of, I think 2 years ago, we hosted a traditional and religious institution training for faith leaders, both Christian and Muslims. And it was, especially for the Christians, for the pastors, it was really hard. And we were pushing them hard. So if you have a scenario where this man is beating his wife daily, what would you advise? And they come to you, and they were like, you know, we would counsel.
But we have the scenario, the single who was killed.
You know, and so it's really tough with them, because for many of them, they go back to the Bible and they say, no,
God hates divorce.
Divorce is bad. But we have to be firm, and we have to say these things is happening in our society, and we've seen too many cases of people dying, and we have to continue to push our faith leaders to encourage people to separate and step out from abusive relationships before they lose their lives.
But do you think in that regard, our faith leaders are even doing the work of talking about abusive relationships?
I don't think that they're talking about it enough, but I must say that we've seen some improvement over the years. We've moved from a culture of complete silence where nobody even talks about it. We've gotten to see exemplary leaders, faith leaders now mention it and talk about it. But we need to then see that last mile where abusive persons know that there is no room to hide anymore. If you go to church, people are going to call you out. If you go to the institutions, people are going to call you out. We also need to have last mile connectivity from government, where people ensure that and know that when you pick a call and call government for help in an abusive relationship, you're going to get help. One thing significant thing we're also seeing is that as many Nigerians move to the diaspora, people are seeing a lot of
changes. What Nigeria could not do, diaspora is doing. It's catching them, teaching them.
People are seeing a lot of change. And people are saying, oh, marriages are breaking up abroad. No. People have moved to places where laws are being enforced.
Societies do not accept those things.
Societies do not accept
But have you not seen the resistance? The resistance now is that men are doing videos and say, don't bring your wife tonight to the US or to the America or to UK or abroad, because the society will influence her. And it's not societal influence. Everybody in these places are mandated first reporters. Even in Nigeria, in Lagos, I know, everybody is a mandated first reporter. So instead of addressing the issues, you went from Nigeria, from abusing your wife in Nigeria, you carried it to UK, US, UK, wherever. Your neighbors called police. You're saying, don't bring your wife from Nigeria abroad.
But
is that what the explanation should be?
What men are also not saying is that they feel that their wives are not doing enough when they go abroad. What they don't understand is that when you're in Nigeria, people have a lot of help.
Yes.
That when you move abroad, it's suddenly
it's completely gone. And the men that were not doing anything in Nigeria want to continue not to do anything abroad.
So then it looks to men as if I have not changed, my wife has changed. Because they were actually doing the exact same thing they're doing in Nigeria, and they're doing the same thing abroad. But it's not working. Because women have help in Nigeria. You can call grandma, she can come quickly, You can ask neighbors to help. You can have an house help. But abroad, you don't have that. So both parties have to really work together.
And even abroad, you know, the women have more jobs.
Yes.
They take on more responsibilities,
Yes.
so it's quite difficult. Now, still in line with your chain of thought, we know that many men may actually feel pressure from culture, their peers, or even, you know, insecurity, you know, against taking a stand. So what are the common resistances, you know, for men or that men face when asked to be allies, and how can they overcome them?
I think one example I heard from a friend that says he normally would cook, but when his parents are coming, he stopped cooking because he doesn't want to be seen as that person who cook. It's also about how culture sees this thing, how society sees this thing. So he doesn't want to be labeled a certain way. And so these are things that we actually need to look at and talk about more. But we also need to actually be open. Many years ago, many women were not earners in Nigeria. More women are now more educated and earning. And so they're contributing to the household income. And so men also just have to learn to do some of the household chores and try to balance things.
But isn't that, so for many men, doesn't that oftentimes comes across as being threatened, their position of head of the house? Because a lot of women are out earning their husbands, even in Nigeria, depending on the line of work you're in and what you do. And you always hear from men, we've talked about stories here where men are willing to sabotage the progress of their wife against their own enlightened interests, so that she stays smaller than them. She continues to earn less, or her opportunities are reduced. So this idea where a woman who's financially stable, who is more educated or as the same level as educated as you, as a threat to a man's position, how do we challenge that? Because again, it's wrapped up in what society expects of men. So we're not changing, we're not adequately changing the expectations. We talk about the fact that we spent a lot of time working on the girl child. We've done that for almost 20 years, but what did we do with the boy child? And I tell them all the time, I'm afraid women love, what is it that says, mothers love their sons, and then they raise their daughters. Mothers love their sons, but mothers raise their daughters. So growing up and having a man who is not threatened by a woman's financial stability or education, and can still be a head of the house without being the one that brings the money, because men are tying their essence to being financial providers only.
I mean, you can't blame men also 100%. You can't grow up all your life listening to messaging and culture tell you your only role is to be the provider. And then when you lose that and to not have a sense of deja vu around what else can I do? And that goes back to how do we raise our boys? We have to raise our boys differently. There's some part in putting money on the table. There's some part in being involved in your family. You should not be the judge who comes to issue orders to your children. You have to spend time with your children, bond with your family, support them, take them to school, know the name of their teachers.
Know their birthdays.
Know their birthdays.
I can never forget that. It was done in the U.S. The father was standing there, could not name the best friends, could not name the grade that the child was in, could not name when they were born. And it's like, what exactly... What part of their life are we in?
The office too. Some men don't even know their children's shoe sizes.
Do you understand? Okay, so let's look at something in this conversation, and it is the why of why men abuse. From your experience, what are some of the core reasons men become abusive? Are we going to put all of this on social conditioning? Is it a sense of entitlement that is part of the social conditioning of what they grew up with? Is it unresolved trauma, or what is it?
I think it's also power dynamics. We also need to look at the power dynamics there. Men want to have a sense of control and power. The second thing we also need to look at is we also need to understand that our laws are not strong enough or they are not being effective enough. So if you look at a country like Nigeria and compare to Denmark, where sexual violence is very low, and it's just because the laws work. If people pick up a phone and call the police on you,
that's it.
And that's it. They don't need to do that much more than that. But in the case of Nigeria, I think Lagos is one of the outlier states we have in Nigeria where the laws and the agencies, Lagos DSP has done a lot of work. We have a number of states that are also coming up. We do work in Imo, in the FCT, a couple of states, but in many states we're almost near zero in terms of government response. The next question, and then people will tell you, because we have many cases where women want to leave, but they don't have where to go. And they don't have a safe center. They don't have a safe center where can they go, who would support them, and all those kind of issues. Is what comes up.
You know, there's another thing that we have to look at, because now we often hear that hurt people hurt people. How does this play out in the context of GBV? Are we saying that most of the men who abuse, it's like an unaddressed maybe trauma response or emotional issues that they have? Because sometimes we have to look at it wholesomely so that it might not just be their conditioning. It could be something that is a traumatic response. Now I'm finding out that some children who have been bullied, when they have an opportunity,
they turn to bullies
themselves. Is that something that is one of the...
And is that something we need to look at as a society?
I think in some ways, yes, because our society would always tell men not to show emotion. And so I lost my father in my final year in university, and I'm the last born in my house, and everybody that came said, man up, go and console your mother. Go and, why are you crying?
You too needed consolation.
I needed consolation. But that's what the society tells you as a man. Don't show emotion. You have to be strong. You have to be brave. So there's a lot of bottled up emotions that you see. But you see, like I said earlier, men who have now relocated to Canada and the UK, now they are behaving because they know they can't do it, despite those emotions.
It's not business as usual.
Because they know if they do anyhow, they're going to
see anyhow. They're going to see anyhow.
So we have to come back to strong institutions and strong laws. If the institutions are strong, if the laws are strong, you see the issues around tax in Nigeria, for instance, where people are seeing that the tax laws are getting stronger. You are seeing more compliance. If the institutions are strong, if the laws are strong, if people are seeing examples of people being dealt with according to the law on TV, on social media, more people will behave. If you have emotional conditions, you will seek help.
Okay. So aside, what society expects of a man, why is it very difficult for a man to actually admit that they are abusive in the first place?
There are two ways to also look at it. Even when you look at many data that's been published in Nigeria, actually a lot of women don't even count some of these as abusive. 1 out of 3 women, according to data that we have seen, do not see anything wrong in their partners beating them up. They actually also think it's love. We've had situations where we have this men's network on sexual and gender-based violence, and we do community gatherings all over the country. And it was in one of the meetings in Abakaliki, and one guy was saying to us that my girlfriend, after 1 month, came to me and said, "What's wrong with you? You've never beaten me before. You've not ever harassed me. You've never..." And he was like, "Why should I do that?" I said, "That means you don't love me enough if you're not able to do that, because all my partners have always done so. And I've tried to provoke you to see whether you even do anything, and you have not done nothing." So
are you
it's not only, are you man enough? Really, literally, are you man enough? So it's also not just about boys as well, but also as girls. It's also about the examples they've seen in the society. And these things have become normalized. And so we have to unnormalize these for both boys and girls to see that violence is not an option, and we have to eradicate it in our society.
But how do you tell them violence is not an option? Because also the data, I believe it's ILO, a lot of Nigerian children experience violence at first from home.
Yeah.
So how do we then expect them to believe that violence is not an option when many Nigerian children are raised in violence?
And it's an all of society approach, and things can actually change, right? Many people will tell you in the past that Lagosians don't queue. Then BRT came, and people start queuing to enter buses. People would almost swear that it's not possible for Lagosians to be orderly. But I can actually tell you, I've been to 34 states across Nigeria. Despite the chaos of Lagos, Lagos is pretty way more organized than many of the states in Nigeria, despite the numbers, despite the narrow roads and all of that. So we can get some order. A lot lies on family, a lot lies on our religious institution, a lot lies around strengthening our institutions for them to be able to do right. A lot lies around raising our children differently. I think a lot of middle class have come to that place where they say, we don't want to do as we were raised and beating our kids. But we need to go deeper than that, last mile connectivity in our societies, in our communities, and we need to find alternative ways, because actually people don't know how else to raise children without beating them. So how do you teach? How do I raise my children without beating them?
Let's take a quick break on this point, because if we have some agreement on the fact that data says we need men and boys to be involved, how then are they involved? Let's take a quick time out. Jasiri will continue after this.
So much for staying with us on Jasiri today. And of course, we're discussing everything we can about, ending gender-based violence. And now we want men to become allies, partners with us on this. We still have our guests with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on this show.
Thank you very much.
So I'm hoping that more men will be able to talk as wholesomely and as kindly as you're speaking about, issues surrounding gender-based violence. So we agree that men should get involved. But, let's paint a picture. What does allyship, what would it look like in real life? And how do men move from, good intentions? Because a lot of people say, yeah, we're with you. Yeah, we're supporting you.
I'm here for she.
I'm here, he for she, wearing T-shirts and all. But we want to move from just intentions to concrete action.
Yeah.
What are the attitudes, the behaviors, commitments that they need to make so that they can be credible partners in this change that we want? So Rotimi, please.
Yeah, and a number of things that we continue to tell men nationwide. We have this men's network where young men meet monthly in different states across Nigeria, and we have conversations. One thing that we always preach is consent is key, right? And it's something that a lot of men, actually young women, don't understand.
Yes.
We always paint a scenario. If a young lady calls you up and say, hey bro, I'm coming to spend the night in your house today, has she given consent?
No.
70% of the time, both the boys and the girl says, in some way, she has given consent. Why
Because there's an implied intention.
Why is she coming to sleep in your house if she's not expecting something? And we say no. And then when we discuss this thing and break it down, nobody, almost in all of the places we've had this conversation, when we then say, but do you know as a man, you can say, don't come. They never think about it.
Yeah.
They never think that they have
They
the
have a
power
choice too.
and a choice to say no. Right? If you know that you can't hold your body, if you know that you have different expectations, you can either discuss it or say, don't come. I don't want you to come to my house. In almost all the places we've discussed this, men don't think that way. They don't think they have a choice of no. Because the way men are socialized, if you see an opportunity, especially
You take
women,
it.
take it.
Take it.
If you don't take it, your friends will say, you said,
Don't
hey,
joke.
you let that
She's
go.
bringing it.
That's how men have been socialized, and we need to find a way to stop it. The second is also around the culture of silence that I've spoken about earlier. More men need to speak out. When we see evil, we have to speak out. We have, when men gather in places, they watch football, people come and share all the jokes that they have, all the experience that they have. People buy them more drinks, but we have to start calling those kinds of examples out, where people come and say how they battered or beaten someone, and we say, no, it's not allowed. This is not allowed in our society. But also in the workplace, there's a lot of workplace harassment that we see, and people say, no, that one is not abuse. When you say, oh, the boss says, if you do this, you do that. She said, but she agreed. She's the one that she was not forced.
Coercion and abuse
Because
of
a
power.
lot of people don't see that there's sexual harassment. They feel that sexual harassment is just force, where you tear somebody's clothes and you rape them.
No.
But they don't see the power dynamics when you use power and control over someone. And of course, most recently we saw many examples on social media where some of these things became an issue around power and control.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we need to speak about more.
Do you think that the masculinity in Nigeria is toxic?
In some ways, yes, it is. And we have to be very frank, it's very toxic, but we have to then flip it and say, how do we make it positive as
Exactly.
against being toxic?
Okay, so we have examples of, we have examples globally where men are rethinking traditional masculinity, embracing respectful fatherhood or even partnership. How do we bring some of those conversations and some of those examples of things that are happening outside of Nigeria into Nigeria and use it as a base to start, aside from increasing the conversation, then also advocating for change?
I think for my own examples, I'm a father of triplets and all my daughters, all my
Triplets!
all my children,
Baba better.
all my children are girls. And I mean, one of the things, and it's an all of society thing. Many times, a few times when I take my daughters to the hospital alone,
They're shocked that it's you
and then I
alone.
go to the pharmacy, the pharmacist is saying, she greets me, blah, blah, preparing their medication, and I say, where's their mother?
Why?
I'm like, why? She said, I need to explain the medication to her.
Why? Why are you assuming she's the one who's going to give the medication?
Because the assumption is that the fathers will forget about the medication and will not know. You know, I shop for my daughters, I see something on Instagram I want to buy, I send them a message, but the moment I'm asking about children things, they think I'm a woman. And then they say, dear madam, although my picture shows I'm a man. So it's an all of society thing. It's the expectation that people have that. And I think cut men a lot of slack. We don't expect them to do anything, and when we do bare minimum, we get a lot of applause.
Very bare minimum. You get applause for it.
We get a lot of applause for the bare minimum that we do. But absolutely, all of us, and I don't think for most men in Nigeria, myself inclusive, we need to do way much more.
A lot more. Yeah.
Wow, this is great conversation.
It's a refreshing conversation.
It's very refreshing from all that we experienced last week.
Yeah.
So now, do we have to be careful with messaging when it comes to when we are communicating with boys and men to become a part of this fight against GBV? I ask this because it seems so many boys and men are pushing back against the gains of feminism. Once you say anything about feminism, they just think it's about women bringing men down and wanting to be equals. They don't see it like, okay, we are all human, and that is what we need to push and not our agenda. And they are being exposed to this thing they call the red pill content now, that they are being influenced by, media, social media especially, in terms of how they view girls and women. So do we need to start reshaping the messaging for them? Because a lot of men, all they know about maybe intimacy is what they see from pornography.
Yeah.
And it depends on the kind that they are even exposed to. That determines how they interact with girls and what their perception of that is. Because in that space, nobody's asking for consent. Everybody is just a free flow. But this is the kind of content that the boys of this age are more exposed to. So how do we begin to reshape the messaging?
I think that there are two ways to look at it. One is that we have to be careful not to demonize all men.
Yeah.
And on social media, you see men as scum. And a lot of men take that very personally. And so we don't want to use one old brush to paint every man bad. So that's one messaging we have to be very careful about. The second thing is also we have to encourage more men to speak out. Even if what they say is wrong, even if it's misogynistic, even if they're pushing patriarchy, but if they don't speak out, we don't know what to change and what to correct and provide additional information, And then we have this culture online that most people don't even want to engage, because the moment they say something, they are labeled, they are called names, and so most people don't want to engage. But we have to create safe spaces for men to speak out, to have healthy conversation, to have a healthy debate, to examine things like, what if my wife earns more than I do? What would I do? Is this an opportunity for us to uplift our family, or should I sabotage my wife from making an income? We've seen many people sabotage. I've had a personal experience of someone that I know who won a scholarship to go abroad to the European Union, all expense paid, and the husband said, no, we are not going. So why? So you can't earn a master's before me. And they went to family, to pastors, to everybody. The centrality of the idea
was that she needed to choose her marriage.
If you respect your husband, then you would listen to
your
him.
husband, pray
and
for him.
Did he end up getting that master's?
She didn't go,
Did the husband end up getting the master's
they didn't get, but at the end of the day, it was a lose-lose situation. Because the marriage is on the brink of collapse. Because she is very bitter, and now he doesn't know how to get her out of that mood, and it's a lose-lose situation. So those are the things that men need to understand and examine. But if we don't have these open and honest conversations, then we're not going to be able to get there.
Well, we understand that most men do not want to be seen as less of themselves. But what are the practical daily behaviors that men can adopt to be better allies? I mean, at home, at work, and even in their communities. How can men challenge some of those harmful jokes, locker room talk, or even sexist comments without losing friendships or being dismissed as doing too much?
I mean, in 1 minute, because we gotta go.
That's a lot to unpack in a minute, but I mean, we just have to do more. Even in my own household, you might underestimate and think that this work is easy. But once in a while, when you get to do it yourself, you see how difficult it is. I travel a lot, and then there was a time my wife also had to travel. I got home, the grandmother, my mother-in-law, was staying with the kids. I just asked her to go out and do the kids, and she was like, would you be able to handle them? I'm like, no, just go out, deal with them myself. It was tough. And then it made me also realize that my wife does a lot when I travel. But if you don't do those things, you don't know the worth and the weight that other people carry and how you appreciate them differently.
I almost clapped.
Clap, go ahead. All right. So for us, this is not the end of this conversation. Rotimi, we look forward to having you back because we've had these conversations even outside of the 16 days of activism, and we'll continue to have them. We've talked men's mental health. We talked men's role in society. We've talked about toxic masculinity. We've talked about raising a new generation of African men and boys. So it's a conversation we'll continue. Now, ending gender-based violence is not a women's battle. It's a human responsibility. And as we've heard today, men are not just part of the problem. They must be part of the solution. Allyship is not a title. It's a daily choice in how men speak, how they lead, how they love, how they hold their friends accountable, and how they create a world where safety is not up for negotiation. We cannot transform society without transforming the men in it. And transformation starts with honest reflection, courageous conversations, and intentional action. Rotimi Olawale, thank you so much for joining us today. And to every man willing to step forward, listen, unlearn, and do better, thank you as well. The work continues. We'll see you guys tomorrow.